Hey there, I'm Brittany Schroeder, and business and marketing are my jam. I'm here to walk you step by step through this crazy thing we call business. I'm a small town girl, chocolate eating, Diet Coke drinking mom, marketing guru, automation Jedi, and all around good time. This is your weekly dose of all things business and life, sprinkled with some fun. This is the Redefine Business Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Redefine Business Podcast. I am so excited about our guest today. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa Guller of Wit and Wire. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Well, awesome. I am excited. One of the things that I'm constantly working with my clients on is, a lot of times they have this, I call it the golden ticket. And that is usually their product or their service or their offer, whatever it is. And I think we all kind of start in that place. And then as the businesses grow and scale, then we realize like, okay, I want to make more and work less. I think that is kind of the go-to that everybody wants these days. And so one of the things that I often talk to my clients about and work with people on is, hey, can you create a course or group coaching or something like that? And that is when Melissa comes in, and her expertise is on helping people with course creation. So Melissa, can you just tell my listeners just a little bit about who you are and your background and all those details?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I have a unique backstory in the course creation world because I started off behind the scenes. So I used to teach in-person classes at General Assembly, New York. And so I was talking about, data analytics and all of these very nerdy topics that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I realized a lot of people came up to me and they wanted more help. They wanted tutoring or they wanted consulting. And I quickly realized that I had a skill that was in demand. So that was the first kind of foray into, oh, wow, I do have expertise that people would like to pay me for. But then from there, I actually started working for Ramit Sethi. He's a New York Times bestselling author. And at the time, before the pandemic, he was running a 50-person fully remote business before people understood what my job was at all. I was already working from home. And he was doing like 8 figures a year in online course sales. And that really opened my eyes to what was possible to earn money online. And then the final piece of my puzzle came when I started working for Teachable. So I was behind the scenes. I was the director of marketing. I built a lot of curriculum for their own audience of course creators. They're a popular course creation platform. And so what was most unique about Teachable is the fact that I got to meet a lot of online business owners who were very successful selling online courses. And you can't help but be inspired when you see all of their stories, but you also learn a lot about what the successful creators are doing, the ones whose businesses last and who are meeting their own definition of success. You see a lot of themes. And so finally, I realized that although it was bittersweet to leave that kind of dream job, I could make a different kind of impact if I set out on my own. So that's what led me to start Wit and Wire. And now I work more directly with online business owners to help them create their own online courses. And it's been a great opportunity to just combine my, like I said, unique kind of experience in marketing, course creation, and teaching, and to share that with experts who have a lot to offer, but maybe don't have the technical or marketing know-how. So I feel very fortunate to do what I do now. And I really enjoy learning about other business owners too.
Well, awesome. Yeah. I think that, for me, I'm always like fascinated at different people and their journey and their success. And it's just so interesting to watch different people be successful, even at course creation, because a lot of times I think, we think we have a really good idea or we see a really good idea, but then there's also that element of, is it saturated? Has it already been done? Is there a need? There's all these different things. And so it's so interesting. I currently use Kajabi for my course creation, and I'm in a Kajabi Facebook group. And I love to see when people post like their success stories. And I'm always like so fascinated by some of the digital courses that just go like so big. Like, I can't even think of them off the top of my head because I'm on the spot, but just like random things like how to train your cat. It's literally like just kind of like random things. So that would be so interesting to be on the opposite end of that and just seeing tons and tons and tons of courses and seeing what does well. So tell my listeners just a little bit about about the process, what it would be like to work with you and how you do like the process of course creation.
I'll be the first to say there's no one right type of course to create or one right way to do it. But typically, the people who I work with are maybe service providers. They've had some experience sharing their expertise with buyers, but maybe they're either at capacity or just kind of feeling like it's taking up quite a bit of their time. Or on the other hand, I also worked with creators who have built up an audience around that area of expertise, but now they're looking for a way to start monetizing in a way that doesn't rely on sponsorship or partners. And so, what both audiences have in common is that they have already some kind of topic that is in demand. Their audience is asking for something, or with the service providers, your audience is paying you to help them reach their goal. And so, when people come to me, they're thinking of ways to scale their business that doesn't rely on trading their time for money, either eliminating client work or perhaps adding another option. So, the number one thing I look for in what could make a course successful is whether or not there is demand for the outcome. I think a lot of times people think of courses with topics, like the topic of social media, the topic of losing weight. Those are areas, but for anybody tuning in to think about what is the profitable course idea, I'm always looking for the goal or the outcome that somebody wants to reach. There's a gap between where they are today and where they want to be. And in my programs, we talk about this as like the bridge theory. And so your course is the way that your ideal buyer wants to go from where they are today to where they can already see that they want to be in the future. So that could be just one starting prompt to figure out what is that profitable idea that I could find that I could package as a course to sell to my audience.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point because that is one of the things that I have seen is like, what is the outcome going to be? And I agree with you. And it's so true that it's like, what's the starting point and what's the ending point? And I think that that is like that's like that's an effective way to create something because you're selling the outcome ultimately, and people kind of get away from that and they don't realize that it's like, what is the outcome. And I agree with you because I always refer to weight loss too, where it's like, like if you're saying, like it's such a vague thing, it's such a like huge thing, but if it's more like specific, like, okay, how to lose, 5 pounds or something like that, but being more specific on what is the exact outcome they're going to get. And that's just that in general is just a very good like marketing tip, because people a lot of times want to talk about all the features and all the bells and whistles, but at the end of the day, we really are selling an outcome. So I think that's like really important.
And what makes an outcome, I think, a complete idea is that there are three different parts. There's some ideal buyer who has an existing desire and wants to use your strategy to get there. So, weight loss, another reason why it's a good example is because there are so many different ways that different types of people could lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have different desires about why they want to do that. And so, one person might decide to practice yoga. Another might decide they want to pick up CrossFit. Another person's going to focus more on diet. A fourth might want liposuction. There's no one answer to get to that desire. But that's why for the profitable course idea, and I would say that this applies to services as well, you really want to think about who am I speaking to? What is it that they want to achieve? What is the existing desire they already have?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the specific strategy that I can teach to help get them there?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three pieces that I usually recommend that people look for.
Yeah, I love that. And I even think of my own business is even teaching marketing. It's a little bit more challenging because, I see in just like in our industry where we're seeing how one person does it and we think we have to do it that same way. And you can teach marketing strategies, but everybody has different strengths and it doesn't always necessarily transfers. Like one person might have a lot of charisma and you can teach them, okay, get on camera and do this. And other people it isn't as effective. And I've noticed even in my business, I have I've evolved to teaching people the more specifics of how to build a funnel, because that is something that it's a measurable outcome, because it's like you have a funnel at the end. And so I have found even in my course creation, those have been the more successful ones because it is a specific outcome that you're teaching and they're walking away with whatever you're promising them. So yeah, that's so important. And I think a lot of times in marketing, we kind of miss that. So, okay. So once you come up with the idea, you brainstorm with them the idea, then what is the next step in course creation for you?
The biggest way that my approach differs perhaps from traditional advice is that when we look to, perhaps our favorite online business owners and what they're doing, they are doing large scale marketing and sales strategies. They're running webinars, challenges, paid ads, and all of those can be very effective strategies. But where I see new course creators go wrong is that they jump right ahead to creating this big online course with these big marketing efforts. And if you imagine the day comes where you put your new course offer out into the world and you want to see if anyone will purchase, if you're doing this big scale marketing effort and you're running paid ads and you have a new offer and you don't make any sales, it's going to be really tough to diagnose if it was the marketing that didn't work or if it was the offer itself. And there's this principle that comes from direct response copywriting, and it's called the 40-40-20 rule. So this rule applies to what goes into a buyer's decision. It says that 40% of their decision is if they're in the right audience, 40% is if they're actually interested in the offer, and only 20% is creative, the copy, the marketing, all of that. And so one way that my approach is a bit different is that we want to strip back that 20%, the creative, and really just focus on, can we find an offer that our audience wants to purchase? Mm-hmm. So because of that, and because of what I learned after working at Teachable and just seeing what the successful creators have in common, the way I talk about course creation is a method I call the course lifecycle method. And so this breaks down into 3 phases that every course goes through as you go from launching a new course through kind of moving it into the evergreen passive income stage that a lot of people dream about. So in phase 1, it's called validate. The goal is just to put an offer out to make sure that you have willing buyers and to deliver your curriculum to those first buyers and to get their feedback. And so the types of teaching and marketing strategies that you'll use in that stage are a little bit different from eventually the automate stage. You can use the webinars, the big scale, and all of that stuff. But I always just like to say upfront that one big takeaway I hope people hear is that your strategies do evolve over time. And I think that's a bit of a relief. I think course creation can feel very permanent. It can feel very big. But if you kind of strip things down and you keep things simple upfront, you can always add and evolve as your course naturally grows. So the process really breaks down into finding your profitable idea, developing your initial curriculum, and then working with your first students to collect feedback and create a truly effective experience. So that's what goes into launching a course for the first time. And then, like I said, you can evolve your strategies for marketing and teaching as you scale.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, I see that, the industry is very saturated with this kind of stuff. And I think that people do it the opposite of what you teach. And I love that because I had to learn it the hard way, where it was, just like I took a course and I created a course and I'm doing everything by the course, but I didn't take the time to really actually understand my audience, understand what they really needed. And there's been times where I have created a course and I'm like, oh, this is good. And I've had to rebrand it because I wasn't speaking to my audience or I wasn't giving them what they really wanted. And I always tell people, I have to think about it before I messed up, but you sell people what they want and you give them what they need. And a lot of times it's what is that need? And by doing the market research, getting feedback like that is so valuable, is getting the feedback from people, getting people who are your ideal audience to test your course, give you feedback. To me, I not everybody can handle constructive criticism. I personally love constructive criticism because I want to be better. I want to give people what they need. So I think that's such good advice, especially for people who are considering it, is doing it the right way and finding a need. Is there a need? Is it something that people could do and get the outcome too? That's the other thing, testing it. So that's so good.
I think it also reduces a lot of the risk in the process. It can be very daunting to, put yourself out there, share your offer, see what happens, to deliver a course and to put yourself open for feedback, definitely. Mm-hmm. But I think it's far riskier to work behind the scenes, to try to be psychic about what your audience wants, and to just kind of hope and pray that when you open doors that people want to purchase. And I think the truth is that it's easy to assume that successful business owners have a better pulse on marketing or their audience. And it's certainly true that over time, as your business evolves, you do develop that better sense of what they need. But even experts in their industry will need some refinement around just the way you position the course and exactly what will resonate with your audience, no matter how many years of experience you have. And so I think it's about being open-minded and curious about the process and just kind of figuring out at first, what is it that does resonate? How can I position my expertise in a way that my audience is so excited to purchase and to join me and to reach this goal? And then once you have that in place, then just kind of working with them, because ultimately we can't create desire in our audience, but we can channel that desire and offer our expertise as a solution to help them reach their existing desires. So I think that's another place where people go wrong. They try to tell people what they want, and then it feels like very pushy, very salesy. But if instead you figure out what they want, and then you say, hey, I'm actually creating this new program where I can help you reach your existing goal. If that sounds like you, let me know. Then selling starts to feel a lot easier. And in fact, my best sales months have always come when I felt like my offer was just such a no-brainer, because my audience had been telling me exactly what they wanted for months or even years.
Yeah. I think the other part too about marketing and your market research is you have to test stuff. And, a lot of times my clients will come to me and, they have a marketing idea or they want to do a training or a course. And I'll say, yes, it sounds good. It sounds good. And especially if I'm not their ideal client, I'll say, but you have to test it. Like you have to see if there is a need for it. Like you have to put things out there and test things, especially with course creation. It is a lot of work. Depending on how you do it. Obviously, I've done stuff that's taken longer than other stuff, but it really is like a labor of love. And you do put a lot of time into it. And, if you don't do that one piece first, like, are you really, you might not be spending your time in the most effective way, because you could be doing something that just isn't going to work. So I think you have to test the ideas. You have to, get feedback and do all those things. Okay. So then once they come up with an idea and they create it, what's the process of they outline it? How hands-on are you in the graphic design and the actual content in the course?
So the way that I work with business owners is through an online program of my own, no surprise. And so the way that the experience looks in a Wit and Wire program is similar to what a lot of my own students are creating. There's a backbone, typically of self-paced curriculum, typically kind of bite-sized 5 to 15-minute videos. Sometimes there are corresponding workbooks or action items, depending on what the topic is and who you're working with. And then in my programs, there's also a lot of hands-on partnership through small group coaching and some other ways where you can get personalized feedback, but each business owner is doing the work themselves. And I think that that kind of mix is something that not only works for my business, but works really well for a lot of my students. And the benefit too of working directly with people in your audience is that you're just constantly getting useful feedback and ideas about how you can improve your program. Because I think one way that successful creators set their courses apart long-term is by keeping a pulse on what their audience is asking for, what their successful students have in common, how their industry is changing. So I think that's one way that you can be really competitive long-term as a course creator, is by consistently, not, weekly or even monthly, but even once a quarter, if you took a close look at your course to figure out, a few people have asked me for this, how can I improve? But within that process, what it looks like is, first, you would outline your curriculum. You'd break up the big outcome into smaller milestones and figure out what are the steps you need to take as a student in order to reach those mini milestones on the way to the big goal. And then as the course creator, what you would do next is start to actually create curriculum. And to maybe simplify or debunk the process a bit, what most people end up doing is they start with perhaps a rough outline of an individual lesson or one overall section, which is a group of related lessons. And then the most common type of video that I recommend for most course creators is a slide-based video. You have Google Slides, PowerPoint, Canva, something up on screen. You put your face in the corner so you can have a bit of connection with your audience, although it is not necessary. And then after you create your slides and the resources, you would record those videos and then upload into a course creation platform. But I will say that not all course creators I work with start with pre-recorded videos. It's also an option to test your material with a live workshop series or a founding cohort in that type of way. So there's not only one right way to do it. I think different business owners use different teaching strategies effectively. But what they all have in common is that you create your curriculum outline, you build out your slides and your resources, you record videos or you teach live, and then you provide those resources in a course format to your students. And so that's really the backbone of what makes up any good course experience.
Yeah. And, and I think that, I've done them before where, it's one of those things where you do get faster. The more that you do it, I remember my first course, I feel like it took me like 6 months. And then I think I got faster and faster and better and better. So it's definitely like something that you have to practice and get good at, and you're constantly learning. So, well, that is so much good information in there. Melissa, tell my listeners how they can work with you or how they can follow you and learn more about course creation.
So the number one question I'm always asked is which platforms I recommend and how people can actually create their online course. So I do have a free guide. It's a course creation toolkit. It has links to all my top recommendations and a side-by-side comparison of the course platforms. So you can find that at witandwire.com/course toolkit. And you'll find me online anywhere at Wit and Wire. I primarily share content through a YouTube channel and a weekly newsletter called Wit and Wire Weekly. So you'll find all that at witandwire.com anytime.
Yeah, I love that. I love your Wit and Wire. That is cute. I love that. It's really
Thank you.
I like that. It's awesome. Okay, Melissa, I like to end all of my shows with asking my guests 2 questions. So the first one is, what is a pet peeve?
This is something that I've always noticed on sales pages and checkout pages, but I feel like it's been happening more and more recently. So I understand that part of copywriting and selling is that you want to make your offer like a no-brainer. It should feel almost effortless for the right buyer to say that they're getting so much more value out of this program than they are in dollars. But my specific pet peeve is anywhere on a checkout or sales page that says any number of, quote, easy payments. Like the word easy payments, like you can't tell me that 12 easy payments of $250 is easy. So anytime I see the word easy on a checkout page, I just feel like a little nails on a chalkboard about that. So that's one of my running pet peeves.
That's funny. And this isn't a pet peeve, but and I was going to say this earlier, is people talk about like, and I heard another business coach talking about this, and I was like, I love that, but talking about passive income. And she was like, there's really no such thing as passive income because you have to work for it at some point and you have to maintain it. And so that kind of is one of my other ones where I'm like, there's no such thing really as passive because you have to work for it. So that's a good one. Okay. Next one. What is a simple pleasure?
I think just tuning into my Discover Weekly playlist on Mondays. So I have my own routine in my business where I don't let anyone book meetings with me on Mondays or Fridays. I don't have any like student coaching calls or anything. But on Mondays specifically, I'll always kind of sit down, have a cup of coffee, and I do my own like weekly planning routine for the week. But part of that is listening to my Discover Weekly playlist on Spotify to see how well they know me, which is always flawlessly. So that's my nice little Monday work routine.
That is a good one. That's a good one. That sounds like me too. Monday is my content creation and I'm like regrouping, and Friday is I'm checking out and all those things. Well, awesome. Melissa, it was so great to talk to you. So many good nuggets of information for those who are wanting to create a course in maybe 2024. That's one of your goals. I will put all of Melissa's information in the show notes. You can reach out to her, and hopefully this can be something that you do in your business and you add to your product suite. So thanks for chatting with me today, Melissa.
Thanks for having me.
Let's not stop the party here. Head on over to my Instagram or Facebook group, Redefine Your Business, and let me know your thoughts about today's show. I will see you again, same time, same place, next week.